My name is Travis Doolin, and this is my midterm report for the International Business course Bugb 401. The report is on the impacts of the steel industry crisis in Britain. Britain's economy faces the reality of an imminent collapse of its steel manufacturing industry as the UK's steel production escalates in its crisis. Its production industries continue to feel the ripple effects of declines in profitability and the drops in domestic industrial output. A couple of the country's other large competing steel manufacturers, SSI and Capero Industries, have already succumbed to these industrial pressures. The last remaining of Britain's largest steel manufacturing companies, Tata Steel, has formally announced that it will be pulling out of the UK market in May of 2016. Unable to overcome its chronic losses sustained year over year in this diminishing industry, Tata Steel Manufacturing is an Indian multinational enterprise and stands as Britain's largest crude steel manufacturing company to date. The crippling news impacts the affected British communities, dependent industries, and some 40,000 workers hard as they await and protest the looming realities of the aftermath. Conclusion to the fostering this perpetuating crisis has been largely evaluated on the following key factors: high energy costs, cheap import dumping, and political apathy. Domestically, the UK has been encumbered by excessive energy costs driven by green taxes in favor of climate control initiatives and the highest business rates of the continent. To illustrate the differences in costs and business rates, Eurostat figures of 2014 report Britain's steel manufacturers paid 80% higher energy costs and more than 7 times higher business rates than any other of its EU competitors. These costs, in addition to an overvalued exchange rate, compound the crisis by driving steel prices up, further exacerbating their ability to compete domestically and internationally, stifling investment opportunities. Why does this pose such a serious problem? The global market is flooded with an abundant excess of crude steel, further driving volatility within the market. The high costs and global oversupply continue to force the industry further into a downward spiral. However, as previously mentioned, the global steel glut has forced other national economies to do one of two things: either reduce production and drive layoffs, or sell off their excess stock at slightly above manufacturing costs, coined import dumping by the World Trade Organization. Most of the world's largest suppliers of steel have opted for the latter. Though many countries have engaged in import dumping practices, the focus has been drawn primarily on China, as it is the world's largest supplier of steel. China alone has produced over half of the world's steel, which accounts for double the total world output combined. This means that the recent slowing of the Chinese economy has left the country sitting on a huge surplus and thus pushing its import dumping strategy. The United States, for example, has imposed a 237% tariff on Chinese steel imports to mitigate the impact of import dumping. In light of these actions, the question can be raised: why have the UK and EU political authorities failed to take proactive measures against this imminent threat? Some argue that this has been a culmination of 4 decades of political apathy, refusing to organize economic, financial, and industrial policy to support the generation of value. Alternative views indicate that Britain has ignored political solutions to seek stronger trading ties with China in pursuit of a rising nuclear industry, while others blame the laissez-faire ideologies and globalization that have taken precedence over protecting the domestic economy. What is certain is that currently there have been significant failures to take proactive measures to mitigate these impacts, and have left the policymakers in a reactive scramble to salvage this fading industry at substantial economic costs. Additionally, these actions will further attribute to the unemployment and underemployment rates, which have been identified as one of Europe's major global risk concerns. Some views referenced in this report may have limitations of conservative biasness in light of natural internalization reactions to the complex nature of the failing industry. Additionally, other limits can be attributed to uncertainty of prediction and forecasting outlooks on the global and domestic steel industry. In conclusion, it may be a little too late for the UK to salvage the impending downfall of its steel industry. However, the British government may be able to rebuild this industry by embracing energy cost reductions and increased import tariffs to further bolster domestic and foreign direct investment appeal, allowing Britain to regain a sound standing in the global steel trading market.